G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. As we round out 2024 and 2025, I guess my real gift to you is to give you a bit of perspective into, if you're tuning in, one, how lucky you are. Maybe that you're in a position to consider buying investment property, but two, if you're part of the lucky sperm club and you actually live in this country, there's a certain privilege that comes with, hey, I may be able to get into my own home. Part of that conversation means people don't see housing as a pathway or don't feel like they've got an ability to own a home. And that breaks my heart. It genuinely, it wears on me. If you're familiar with my journey, I wrote a book called The Happy Homeowner Handbook, because inwardly I know that every Australian has the ability to get into a property. And now it may not be the one that they absolutely fall in love with or something that's Instagrammable. I don't really care. The fact that if you can stop paying rent and you can be in your own home, the long-term benefits that does around security and mental health speaks volumes to why home ownership is absolutely critical. So I want to round that out to say that if you're in a position to buy a home, you need to know that you are one of the very fortunate Australians that get to call that not a right, but a privilege. Today's guest is Stephen Woodlands. And Stephen, we've had the opportunity to have a chat in the past. You're from a company that you founded called Head Start Homes. And most people are going, hang on, where's the buyer's agents and where's the financial planner today? We're going a little bit left of center because, again, I want to talk about this whole mission around home ownership that you stand for and that you guys are executing daily. So, mate, welcome on. How you doing?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
That's all right, mate. So we're going to touch on your journey. I think one of the big things that when I read your bio and looking through what you guys have done, mate, you have been in the shoes of someone that has known homelessness, and absolutely that gives you a huge amount of empathy for the amount of people, and you probably know the stats around people that are struggling with homelessness, and I'm assuming that number is getting worse as cost of living pressures bite as well. So let's start there and we'll go into a little bit about your bio and your journey.
Yeah, sure. So as a young boy, experienced bouts of homelessness. So around the age of 4, I had to live in crisis accommodation with my mum, brother and sister, and then moved into all other forms of unstable housing till we got into stable housing. So crisis accommodation, transitional housing, then public housing, then community housing. And eventually we got into a community housing home where we could stay in. And as a young boy.
So when you say community housing, what's the definition of that?
Community housing, so public housing is run by a government agency usually.
Yeah.
Community
so that's
housing,
what they'd call housing commission. Is that
it gets quite confusing. But community housing is run by a community housing provider, so usually a not-for-profit that runs it. Okay. And there can be other options or different pathways. They can be quite creative in the way they offer housing. And we were really lucky to finally get into one after many years of moving where we could stay, and that was really important. As a young boy, didn't have to go to different schools anymore. I learned the importance of having a stable home and how fundamental not only that was to me and my own well-being, but also my mum, so she could work and things like that. So that was ingrained from me from a really young age, that having a safe and stable home is super important.
Right. How many homes do you reckon you guys bounced around when you were kids?
I think it was like 4 to 5, but that was in the space of 3 years, 2 to 3 years. So it was a lot.
Packing up, moving.
Yeah, moving schools.
And I can't, from my perspective, I can't understand that, not that I lack empathy, but just to go, I can't imagine what that does at that stage in your life where you just go, there's no real security here. How long are we going to be here before we have to start moving again? I know from the work that Bernie and I have done in and around homelessness. So if you're again familiar with our journey, we launched the campaign Home Loans for the Homeless when we were donating our settlement gifts. Instead of giving clients bottles of wine, mate, we'd actually pay that forward to something like this, right? And you talk about what that does to people where they can't actually settle down, they can't put down roots because they know that I'm not going to be here for very long. Even where blinds aren't provided. So, when you go past certain houses and they've got bed sheets up there, for example, it's that's not even part of the living accommodation situation, like blinds. It's that's a basic right in the house, but that's not even provided. If you're listening, these are just some of the small things that just can kind of weigh on people when they're getting forced to move on, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember, it's a distant memory, but when we left, we had absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So having nothing and then watching my amazing mum, struggle to get into a system to support us, which we were very grateful to get into. But then, not having nothing, you learn a lot as a young boy as well. But what stuck to my core is the important that every child and every family should have a safe and stable home.
Yeah. How does it happen that we don't have this in this day and age, do you think?
I think we need systems to work properly, and there's a lot of problems within systems. I think there's biases that go both ways. I think people can think that it's people's fault for being homeless, or, it's their own fault. They didn't try hard enough, not realizing that there can be a whole range of circumstances that anyone can come into in their life in order to make that happen. It could be health, it could be violence, it could be a whole range of things.
Loss of a job.
Yeah. And then the one that I guess has surprised me somewhat on this journey, and we're always positive, is there is a system that does exist which can perpetuate inequality. And I come across this sometimes, and I've come across it in my journey. I was ready for, maybe a banker telling me, you can't help people in social housing because they're on drugs, or, can't do a loan, they don't understand it. What I wasn't prepared for was someone within the system telling me you can't help these people because they can't help themselves and they need us in order to help them. And I think from me, that's a disempowerment model, and it's a big part of the problem that exists within the system. And that's why Head Start Homes, we always talk about empowerment.
Lovely. Yeah, so if you're unfamiliar with Head Start Homes, look, we've had some awesome previous guests on. And again, when we're talking to you listeners as a property investor, so many parts of this get you to property investing, and it's maybe one part is getting into your own home ownership, and maybe having a roof over your head so you stop renting and and can buy your own home. So think about the episode I did with Own Home, for example. I did the episode with, I'm just trying to think, it's going to come to me in a second. Give me one. Home Affordability Solutions, which is another one, Haas as well, Beth Camino that I had on. And I feel like you are one of the other people that I want to bring on, which is going towards not solving but contributing to helping home ownership and a pathway to achieve that. So as we kick off, mate, you've got an incredible resume. I mean, you've been corporate. When we talk about Chief of Staff at St. George, senior roles at Westpac, Bachelor of Law, for example. What do we got here? I think you were part of the Supreme, were you lawyer?
Yeah, I was admitted as a lawyer.
A lawyer, yeah. And now you've got Head Start Homes, which raised over $10 million. And now you're dubbed a social entrepreneur. Mate, this is no easy feat what you've gone on to achieve, mate. So I want to say kudos to yourself actually before we kick off and go, that's an incredible track record. You could have stayed in corporate and you could have earned a decent income there. You've chosen to take what's happened to you and flip it on its head and going, I'm actually going to help a lot of other people. That's incredible. What you've done.
Thank you. I think with the lived experience, you learn problems. And then my banking career and also my legal career, I think subconsciously or consciously, you're always looking for solutions for those problems. And I was really lucky, having worked in risk at banks, chief of staff, doing it all, you could come to solutions. I did have a moment in 2014, which was the birth of Head Start Homes, where I had a moment that I'm in this corporate world. There's got to be more to it. So I traveled the world for a year, and that's where the idea of Head Start Homes came up with, and the idea of a guarantee concept, which we ended up pioneering, which was fantastic. And really, since then, taking the time to look at the barriers into home ownership and how do we look to provide more equal access to home ownership is the core of what we believe in.
If there's been one message that's come out, particularly in the media over the last, say 18 months, it's around home affordability and the falling levels of home affordability. And it's almost like a political handball because, and this is one of my questions for you, whose responsibility is it? Is it on the government to go, hey, every Australian is entitled to a home, that's an interesting socialist concept, or it's a privilege and you've got to earn it? What are your thoughts?
Look, I think If we're talking about housing, everyone should have a right to a home.
Okay.
That for me is a concept in a system, whether that's social affordable housing, that's a safety net that's meant to be there, has always existed there, and we shouldn't have wait lists of 10 years or more and, 100,000 people desperately trying to get in. That's not something any new, and it shouldn't be anything revolutionary. We're talking about subsidised rents. People on lower incomes can't afford the rents they are, so you need to provide a subsidy in a system, a capitalist system like we work with.
Yeah.
I think with home ownership, you can kind of turn it on its head and say, like in Australia, where a system's designed that if you're a homeowner, you're going to be wealthy and accumulate wealth. And if you're a renter, you're going to be poor and likely stay poor and so are your kids. And if there's tax systems designed for homeowners in order to build that wealth, you have to have a system in which people, if they want to, can get into that home ownership. And the problem with Australia today is that over the last 5 to 10 years, whether you get into home ownership, it used to be about your own personal endeavours, but now it's about your parents' wealth. And Australia hasn't been like that before. Like the key indicator whether you can get into home ownership is your parents' wealth. And for me, that's not the Australia that we want. That's not a country we want to live in, because when you have inequality, which this is leading to, all of society loses. You have increased crime, health rates going down. And that's not the type of community I want to live in. So we absolutely need that equal access to home ownership for those who believe in it and want it. And you got to work hard, as you know. I've read, your book. You have to work. But for those people that want it and are willing to work for it, they shouldn't be blocked out because of where they were born.
Yeah. And if I ask you questions, there's no agenda. It's like these are conversations that I have, either listeners or friends. And it's interesting to get everyone's perspective on it, because you're going, hey, mate, the model used to be work hard, save up, go to the bank, get a loan, get a home. Like that was a blueprint that was fairly achievable. Then I talked to some, 20-somethings. They've walked out of uni. It's a 70 grand HEX debt, which now gets factored in, which was never factored in when we were doing housing, when we were doing servicing calculators 5 years ago, let alone like 3 years ago. So that metric's introduced now as well. Housing to debt, housing to income levels have shot up that are disproportionate as well. And then you go, hey, mate, now it's not a level playing field because the bank of mum and dad is now the X factor. And I say it now, this next generation will be the haves and have-nots. So that's kind of like, I guess, giving some context. And then I hear you say, look, I don't want to live in a society like this. It's like, has this ship sailed, do you think? Has the horse bolted?
We would argue not, because that's why Head Start homes exist.
Okay.
The haves and the have-nots and bridging the gap is exactly what our vision, our purpose is. And I'm really lucky because I get to work. We've got 100 organisations that support us, an army of volunteers, all these like-minded people that believe that, no, we can come together in order to provide more equal access to home ownership. And then I think when you look at some of our client journeys, we're helping people into home ownership in which society forgot about or thought could never get into home ownership or had even lost all hope in themselves. And by demonstrating those stories and by being innovative and creating new products, new ways of thinking, disrupting the housing and home ownership system, then you truly can get to where we want to be, where we have a more equal society.
Yeah. I can hear like almost the brightness in your voice going, but there is a way. Yeah. I love that attitude.
Yeah.
So people going, hang on, what are you talking about, Stephen? Like how do people, and how do you actually get in when you hear innovation and home ownership together in one sentence, you go, oh, does that belong together? How does Head Start Homes, for those that are listening, going, how do you actually help people get into the market?
Yeah. So we like to say that we're the center point of innovation and collaboration, and the two kind of go together. And we've been on that journey from day one. So when we've identified 3 major barriers into home ownership.
Yeah. The
first one everyone talks about and is well known. When we started, there was not really any product offerings for that, and that's the deposit barrier.
Yeah.
Apart from LMI, mortgage insurance. So we pioneered a guarantee model where we can act as mum and dad, bank of mum and dad for our clients and guarantor so that they don't need a deposit. Since then, the government's come on board and we welcome that. And now they have 2% for single parents and 5% guarantee model, and they've done over 100,000.
Yeah.
it's through those learnings that we can really shift things, right? So when we started, it was only parents that could be guarantors. We led the way working with Westpac of saying, well, why don't we have a not-for-profit that can act as guarantors for those who need it most?
Yeah, wow.
That thinking of using a security in order to overcome challenges has been a game changer in relation to the deposit being a barrier. And we're really excited about that. But since then, we've followed our clients and we've identified that there's, two other big barriers. Yeah. The second one, lots of people talk about now, the supply barrier. Yeah. So not only in Australia is there critical undersupply of affordable home for rental, we're talking about social and affordable housing or a private rental market that's not working the way it's meant to work. There's also a critical undersupply of affordable homes to purchase for people on lower incomes. And there's two ways that we're tackling that barrier. Firstly, for a lot of our families, nearly all of them are in social housing. Every family we transition out into home ownership, we free up their social housing home for another family that's on a wait list to move in. So we're having a direct impact on homelessness then, because those families are likely and at risk of homelessness. So you're doing 2 for 1. But then the family that gets into home ownership, they've started their path of independence, of wealth creation. When you own your own home, you can use it for retirement. When you own your own home, you can hand it on to your kids. It's the true determinant to end poverty. And that's why we're so wed on home ownership as being a solution to poverty. Because with equal access and having that as, the proven model to end intergenerational poverty, we're like, why aren't we reaching for there? The second way that we work with the supply model, and we're really excited about this, is developing a new affordable rent-to-buy model, which we've got funding from Wollongong Council. And we've been doing different things across the country on this, whereby we actually create new community housing. And with a pathway to ownership by doing a lot of cool different things in relation to the loan at the end to ensure that when someone comes into these properties and they're on a 5-year lease, we're able to keep the price at that level for their serviceability, even if the value of the house goes up. It's very innovative and we're really excited about that. We're hoping this model, which we call Equity Plus, affordable rent to buy with Equity Plus, will really shift the market to think differently about home ownership being a right, a right that people should have access to. If we're in a system that is home ownership is sure to perpetuate equality and wealth generation.
Like you said, it feels like it's so innovative that it needs it will need some context and some explanation, because it's so revolutionary. But it's saying, hey mate, you've solved a problem that probably should have sat in the government's wheelhouse a little bit, and you're kind of taking that responsibility on your back and you're running with it as well. So how do people qualify? Who qualifies?
So to qualify, you have to be either living in social and affordable housing.
Yeah.
If you're in the private rental market, you have to meet the income thresholds in your state to be in social and affordable housing, and that's set by the state governments.
Yeah.
If you're First Nations, you have to meet the income thresholds set by Aboriginal Housing Office New South Wales, which is the New South Wales government agencies.
Yeah, okay.
So it's all it's income based, or if you're in social housing and wanting to free up those homes, that's how we do it. It's those that are in the most need.
Yeah.
Our clients predominantly First Nations. Out of the 21 home ownerships we've achieved, 13 are First Nations families.
Yeah.
Single parents, around 50% of those are single parents. So a lot of them are First Nations single parents. Households with a disability, migrants where English is their second language, refugees, and of course those living in social housing.
Unreal.
And in relation to the question as to why shouldn't government solve this? Because government isn't solving it. They have a really important role to play. But when you're talking about housing and home ownership, it's cross sectors and it's really siloed at the moment. The banks do what they're doing, the developers do what they're doing, the government does what they're doing, and no one's talking. Community housing providers are doing what they're doing, and no one's talking to one another. And that's what we do. We have 100 organisations across sectors that we can pick up the phone and develop products or offerings to provide a holistic solution for our clients towards home ownership.
That's incredible, mate. Well done. And so the process then for someone to get in the ball rolling. So again, if you're listening and you're going, hang on, like this isn't moving the needle from my investing journey, this is going to be one of these episodes that you may be passing on to someone in your inner circle that you've heard about, or someone knows someone that you go, hey, look, I think there might be an option for you. When you've heard about them talking about their situation, they're feeling a little bit helpless or hopeless, and now they're going, hang on, there could be someone that you could investigate and have a look at, check out their website as an option to consider. Like I'm saying, our job here is to find really good, talented businesses heart-centered organizations like yourself, for example, that are going, hang on, we're here to solve a problem in the market. The problem we're solving is housing, home ownership. You can't solve the housing affordability issue. That's bigger than all of us. The market is moving with or without us, so we can't stop that. But what we can do is find people that tick the right boxes, that have the right need, and now they have the yearning to go, but I really want to have that security and stability for myself and my family.
Absolutely. And then bringing on the right players. So when you're talking about home ownership, who are you talking about? You're talking about you need to have the banks on board. You need to have the developers. They need to be developing new products or solutions that cater to the people that we're helping with. And I think that's really important. So for instance, Westpac, that's one of our founding partners, provide significantly discounted rent for interest rates for our clients.
It's unreal.
Lower fees, specialist lenders that understand the needs of our clients. So tailoring products. And then we've had wonderful discussions with developers like Stockland and Lendlease about providing guaranteed discounted stock for our clients. So when you get the whole sector working, you can think differently. And look, I'm going to say, like, having a corporate background, it makes good business sense to do this because from a banking point of view or developer point of view, you're getting new customers that wouldn't otherwise exist. You're getting new people into home loans that would never get into home loans. And what happens when you have a home loan? You become more affluent, you become a sticky customer. There's a whole range of reasons why not only does it make good sense, from an equality point of view, it makes good business sense. And when you get those two marrying together, that's when you can really bring about significant change.
Yeah. Awareness, because we were having this chat before going, we're talking about maybe amplifying the podcast, for example, and what you do. And it's like, there's only so many people we can speak to one-on-one daily. And it's like, how do you go about sharing this message to get, I guess, a little bit of awareness, but then on top of that, a bit of the advocacy as well?
Yeah, great question. So we've got to be quite targeted with where we reach out to and how, because we already have a wait list of over 150 families, and that's through basically word of mouth. We don't normally do media because every time we do, we get inundated. But we're a new organisation and we have a number of major programs in different areas across the country.
Yeah.
So, for instance, in Wollongong, we've received significant funding from the Wollongong Council there for us to have a home ownership program. So if you're in the Wollongong local government area, you don't go on a wait list, for instance. Also in Canberra, we've received funding from the Snow Foundation in order to have a Canberra home ownership program. And we've also received funding nationally, both from Stockland and from Aboriginal Housing Office in New South Wales for a First Nations home ownership program. So if you're First Nations, you don't go on our wait list either. So the way that we raise awareness is working directly with community groups in those areas. So for instance, in Wollongong, we have a community worker who meets with all the local organisations, whether it be First Nations or other ones, and just raise awareness of what we're doing and how we help. We have to be very targeted because we don't like the idea of having huge wait lists for people that we can't help. And we've got to be, as a not-for-profit social enterprise, we've got to be really focused on where we put our resources. We've doubled in size in relation to staff and funding within the last year, so we are growing fast. But one of our mottos is start small, start smart, start somewhere and scale. And we've got pilots right across the country looking to do that with new innovative products and models coming through all the time.
Lovely. There's going to be one of my questions. I think your annual report kind of covers this off. So I was having a quick read through your annual report here. But you're going, hey, we're non-for-profit. And people first thing is, how do you run this business? And how is the business, the lifeblood of the business? How is this funded? Because obviously you're working very closely with banks, but you're not selling the product, right? You're effectively an intermediary or distribution channel. So how does it work from a commercial perspective?
It's a really good question. So that's probably been one of the hardest and most innovative things, is to create new products and then find ways to fund it. What we've done really differently, which was incredibly hard, and we still do it now, is we develop the product and then find the money. So develop the solution and then find the money. If you do it the other way around, then the money always derives the outcome, not the client. And gosh, that's been hard to do, but are we glad we did it? Because what that means is today we provide a completely free service for our clients. Yeah. We don't get any trails or commissions from any bank or anyone, because we don't want that, because otherwise the work we do for our clients could shift. We could have, incentives that mean that we don't always, do what's right from our clients. So we've been very upfront about that. And then what we've done is either, if it's a corporate, we'll say, look, this is why, this meets your sustainability goals, but it's also good for business. If we're meeting with government, we talk about cost effectiveness. For instance, we've freed up 16 social housing homes in a little over 4 years, and I think it's about 10 in the last year alone. To build those homes would cost about over close to 10 million, So if you just think about the impact we're creating from a model that empowers people to get out of social housing, to get their own home loan and to free up those homes, it's incredible. We have the other thing that we're really innovative about is we have live impact dashboarding on our website where anyone can come anytime and see all the different outcomes we're achieving. So the other barrier that I didn't talk about before, but the one that we spend the most time on, which is the most biggest one for our clients, is the know-how barrier. So we provide what we call our empowerment services, which are all about empowering people to get mortgage ready, to learn how to budget, to learn how to save, to learn how to get your credit score, working with specialist bankers, having good interest rates, working with buyer's agents who we call our property coaches who provide low bono or pro bono services to help our clients find the right home at the right price. It's a holistic service, and home ownership isn't our key goal. It's financial capability and helping those that are ready to do it. But home ownership could take from six months to 4 or 5 years for our clients or longer. We're with them as long as it takes. That's really important. On our video, we highlight Carmony, who's our... I was
waiting for you to bring this up. I'm going to include a link to this video. And, mate, I'll cry for a Qantas commercial. I watch Disney with my girls. I'm like, I'm shedding a tear. So I'm a big softie. But, mate, if you watch this and you don't shed a tear, I think you're superhuman or you don't have any emotions. Because I've got to tell you what, this video that you sent me to have a look at, I think it perfectly captures what you do and how you do it. But also there's the human side to it, which is what home ownership means. And I think the big one in me when I saw it was the impact it had on that family was they didn't celebrate Christmases or like birthdays or something to that effect, where it was like there wasn't even stability and security. And I think when our paths have crossed with providers like yourselves and we talk about, giving to the kids, like, mate, they'd be happy with like a new toy or a new piece of clothing, because when they have to leave the house, maybe for a domestic violence reason, they're literally packing up as quickly as they can and leaving, which means they leave their favorite teddy behind or they leave their favorite clothing, their dress behind. And I can tell you with 2 small daughters, the world ends when we cannot find their favorite toy or their favorite dress, right? So I can imagine what that does to a psyche for a young child when there's that lack of security, and that is their security blankets, maybe that dress or that bunny. And I feel like that video, it says a lot about the importance of home ownership. And if you're one of the lucky listeners that do have, when you open the keys to your door and you own that, you just got to I think when you do that today or when you get home and you own that piece of real estate, just know that it's a real privilege.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think what you were saying then and Carmony's video, it highlights just how powerful home ownership can be to create hope and meaning. As Carmony said, she didn't used to celebrate homelessness. She moved 19 times, experienced homelessness, and is a proud homeowner now. One thing that resonates with a lot of consistently across our client stories, and it's interesting to see how our clients somewhat can mirror my own journey sometimes, my own family's journey, is the power that comes with speaking to people that believe in you. And it resonates. Like, the things, our clients aren't about making money. They want a place where they can put the pictures on the wall or have it for their children. That's like key motivators. But then when you hear things like, I'm in a system where people believed in me, or they wanted to see me, or they said yes instead of no, that hope is the engine room behind Head Start Homes. And a lot of people can be stuck in systems that they're constantly told no. And we believe that hope and that yes is a doorway to our clients seeing themselves in a way that hasn't been shown to them before. And that's what Carmony's video really helps to illustrate is, the power of hope. And, Carmony proves that anyone can get into home ownership with the right supports. And that's what also is really powerful about that video.
Absolutely. That video, I think it just... That's your advertisement right there, mate. I'll share that with everyone. I just want to go back to your journey. And again, I hope you take this as a compliment. How does someone like you break the system? Because I feel like, and again, I'll give you some context. I used to get the bus as a boy from school, and our bus would go through a housing commission area. And you could almost just feel the vibe change when you got into the area. It felt a little bit more dangerous when the bus got through it. For example, to the point that sometimes the bus would have a security car behind it as well. And it feels almost like when you're in it, it's a little bit oppressive. Like no one's getting out of this system. Like we're stuck in here. I've spoken about, what you can't be what you can't see. I don't assume that anyone in that community was holding a corporate role, let alone chief of staff, let alone fully fledged lawyer. How did you beat the odds to get where you were?
Through the love of my mum.
Yeah, right.
So from her never giving up hope and her believing in us.
Yeah.
She did all she could for us.
Mums are a wonderful thing.
Then the
mums
power,
are a wonderful
the power of
thing.
mums is,
yes, absolutely.
So she gave everything to her children.
Yeah, wow.
She was a nurse,
yeah.
then became a social worker. She inspired Head Start Homes, but also me, because she couldn't get into home ownership. We were stuck in a system.
Yeah.
Even though she had a good paying job, she couldn't get a deposit for us to get out. And having experienced homelessness, being in a home knowing that other kids are desperately trying to get in, that was a key cause or problem that existed with me. But without a doubt, it was like my mum's love and her belief in her children, her hard work and determination, showing anything can be done, is what I guess inspired me to do what I've done and to go to university or to finish school. So I think that's the answer there.
It's incredible, man. It's absolutely incredible. I feel it also says a lot about our country, and there's people that will rag on this country going, mate, this is a capitalist society. People are getting left behind. The government's failing its own people, for example, sold out of real estate to foreign buyers. There's that side of the argument. And then the other side is, well, you can't control that. You can really control what is in your locus of control. Now you can choose to sit on the sidelines, so you can choose to complain, and misery loves company, so you get sucked into that vortex. Or you can do what you're doing. You can choose to listen in. You can choose to dial up your frequency. You can choose to find the people around you that are enablers, that are action takers, that are decision makers, that are moving you forward in your journey, going, yeah, I acknowledge that there's people that aren't as privileged as me. I acknowledge that there's people that are struggling. But by you not moving forward in your life isn't helping them move upwards either. And I think that's a really big part of what we do. And what a message is here is going, don't lose sight of the people that are left behind, and find, in fact, if you become an owner and an investor and hence a landlord, then be a damn good landlord, right? The tenant needs something, fix it, replace it, for example. Be attentive to their needs, because at some stage, a majority of people probably would have rented. And there's been times where the landlord just was like, no, I'm not going to fix the dishwasher. Like, dude, we need this fixed, right? So I think there's an element of pay it forward if you've been in that situation. A bit of empathy as well will go a very, very long way. But where I'm trying to get to with this is, this country, while we have a very high cost of living, we have a very high standard of living. And there's a price tag that comes with living in such a beautiful country, which has some social elements to it to help people have a roof over their heads. Imperfect? Absolutely. But there are avenues there as well. Globally, how do we stack up when it comes to like social, like affordable housing? Do you think?
There's some countries like Singapore where everyone has social housing, and that's the way of living, and you can buy that home, and there's like huge rates. So, there's countries that are doing it lots better.
Yeah.
But, when you compare maybe to US and the UK, I'd say maybe UK is a little bit more advanced. We might be a little bit more behind, but the notions are the same, But I think what you're stepping into is the power of being empowered yourself and then paying that forward. That's where it starts. And not only is that good for the community, it's also good for you. Like, you can see people that are, live in an existence of fearfulness or not trusting other people. It's not a good way to live. Like, do you know what I mean? So there's an instant benefit that can come from that kind of thinking.
Yeah.
And I guess your listeners can really take that on as well. Like, by you furthering yourself and
you
fulfilling
your
your
dreams. On yourself, right?
Yeah. By not doing it, but by you fulfilling your own dreams and you becoming more happy, that's great. But you can also look at other people and want them to have the same, dreams and aspirations, and spread that good. And that's how I think, within a society, the society really grows and becomes better. It's when we take that mentality that, if I have, someone else has to lose. That's when we have real problems. And at the core of Head Start Homes, it's about abundance. It's not saying, it's about everyone can achieve it. We just need to make sure we've got the right parameters in place, the right organizations talking in order to achieve that. That's what we're all about.
Mate, I love it. And if you, again, come back to your content, your own journey, and again, not blowing any smoke, but if you had played a small game where it's like, I just need to break the cycle and I just need to get into, like, instead of casual work, I just need to get into a full-time gig, and that's where you kind of set that ceiling on your limitations, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing today. You wouldn't have that ability to have this compound wide effect to impact families, and the impact that you've got. You're just starting, but now you've gone intergenerational, which is now their kids are the beneficiaries. That they're not going the journey that you went to. They're growing up in a house of, hey, we've owned property, and that automatically just changes the game. Like home ownership statistics are much higher when you've seen your parents own your own home versus generation renting or generation government housing. It's like the barriers to entry is so much higher, and mentally barriers, like you got to break down these walls in your mind to go, no, we are capable of owning our own home as well. So that completely moves the needle, not only just for the here and now, but for those kids that are growing up. Usually parents of, kids of single parents, that's a game changer, mate, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I couldn't agree with you more. And that's why we need to remember as a society that there are haves and have-nots, and we should be doing what we can. The community works better when we bridge those gaps. The haves, it's actually a better society if we have a more equal society for them, because they don't have to fear. If it's complete inequality, then you fear leaving your house because of crime. It's not good for 2% of the population to have everything and the rest to have nothing. So we really got to build this mentality that we can all have it. We can have an abundance mindset that's possible. So I think that's really important thinking as well, and that's what we're kind of like all about. Yeah.
So if someone wants to either find out more or get behind what you guys are doing, what are the options there, Stephen?
Head to our website. There's a 2-minute expression of interest form. So just hit on the eligibility, apply, and then we'll take it from there. So it's important to say that the way we provide our empowerment products and services is a staged approach. We don't inundate with people with information. The further you go along the journey, the more time we'll spend with you. It's a fully tailored approach. So when you come in, you'll have a client manager who's a social worker basically, who's with you all the way, and then they'll refer you to key specialists, whether it's a financial capability worker, a banker, whoever it is, a property coach, as you go along that journey. So we just say apply and let us take it from there. We do have certain areas that we're working in. We do have the eligibility criteria that you have to meet as a not-for-profit, but then let us take it from there. And that's a key element as to how we've been able to help people grow in social housing who had no idea about home ownership, who didn't think it was possible, into home ownership through that type of knowledge sharing.
Yeah, love it. And shout out to a couple of your partners, Amanda Gould from High Spec, Penny, Purchase with Penny. They're both previous guests on our podcast as well. I know that they get behind what you guys are doing. So, you're keeping some good company there as well. I looked through the names on a number of the supporters that you have, and I'm like, you talk about keeping company with a number of multinationals here, supporter-wise. Obviously, they've seen the benefit and the value of what you guys are doing. You talk about major banks, they don't put their name lightly to some of these projects either. So kudos to you, mate. I'm gonna say, incredible work. I know you're doing something very local and near to dear our heart, being down, Wollongong way. But if you know anyone in your circle that you think could fit the eligibility criteria, you want to find out more, I definitely say jump onto their website. Like I said, that video that we've got, that tearjerker of a video, that'll be up there as well. Links to this episode. And mate, I want to say thank you very much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Like I said, the goal for here is to raise the profile on some of these businesses. I won't say that fly under the radar, but really need that amplification to go, they're on an awesome mission. How do we help spread the word of home ownership, housing affordability, tackling these concepts and these issues that, as investors, we're all part of? Because if you're an investor, the first question people will be asking you is, are you an ethical investor? Are you doing the right thing? Pay your taxes, that's cool. Are you being a good landlord? And I feel like if we can just get this journey and this stack right in terms of, contributing to the Australian economy, mission accomplished.
Yeah, I want to say thanks to you for being a supporter. Also for the books. I've been reading the book and I love the title, Happy Home Loan. You kind of are emanating what we believe in about, home ownership being possible and it being a good, like the positive energy aspect of it. Absolutely love that. Like that's kind of the way we think about it. So I want to say thank you so much for your support as well, and for being one of those amazing supporters. You actually feature in our annual report as well.
Thank you. I didn't say our name. I appreciate that. And again, full transparency. It's not why we're here. I love it. And look, again, just to round that out, you mentioned the book. I want to give it away. So if you know someone that wants a copy of my book, for example, or if you're listening, you haven't got a copy, I think there's a link on our website. Just go into our website. The Contact Us page has a little box there. If you request a copy, we'll put something in the mail to you as well. If you need a copy for a friend, just so that means we'll put 2 in there. And again, it's just sharing this. So again, if we can get the message into people's hands that housing isn't unaffordable, that housing isn't unattainable, that housing isn't unachievable, that it is possible, I feel like you and I, that's our mission achieved, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that kind of leads into our vision, safe and stable home for everyone with fair and practical pathways into home ownership. That's what, that's exactly it. And we can all have hope together.
I love it, mate. With rising tides, we're lifting the ships here, buddy.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Hey, excellent. Hey, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you very much for tuning in. Like I said, if you loved it, we're loving the messages that come in, support. People just loving the potty. Truly, that means a lot to us here and what we're doing. Like I said, we don't care about the downloads. We don't track the views or listens. Those are vanity metrics that we're not caring about. The impact that it's having on people, where people reaching out going, I love the message and I want to do something to move forward. That's all we care about as well. And that's you. You want to reach out, then by all means, please do. That's a wrap for another episode of the Australian Property Investment Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.